If you're over 60, I want you to truly listen to me. This isn't some casual health tip, it's a warning. Imagine going to bed tonight feeling perfectly fine, no pain, no warning at all, only to wake up tomorrow unable to speak, unable to move your arm, or even recognize your spouse's face. That's the cruel reality of stroke. It can steal your independence in seconds, forever changing not just your life, but the lives of everyone you love. And what terrifies me most after over 30 years as a heart doctor, it's not the patients who smoked, who ignored their diet, who never exercised. It's the people who did everything right. They stretched before bed. They practiced gentle yoga. They lifted groceries to stay independent, because no one told them the truth, that after 60, your body isn't the same. The very movements that kept you strong at 40 can quietly rupture a blood vessel at 70. Your arteries stiffen, your heart reacts more slowly, your brain demands steady, gentle oxygen, not sudden shocks. Please don't look away, don't dismiss this. Stay with me until the end of this video. This might be the single most important health message you hear all year. It could save your life, or the life of someone you love. If this message resonates with you, please take a second to hit that like button and subscribe so you won't miss future health tips made just for you. Your health isn't something to leave to chance, and if this video helps you, please consider sharing it with friends or family. You might be giving them the greatest gift of all, more healthy years with the freedom to live life on their own terms. You know, we've all heard the same advice for decades. Stay active to stay young. It sounds obvious, even harmless, but no one warns you that your blood vessels age too. After 60, they're no longer flexible hoses. They're like fragile old garden hoses that can burst or clog with just a little extra pressure. Your heart doesn't adjust as quickly. And those sensors in your arteries, the baroreceptors, that used to instantly rebalance your blood pressure, they lose their sensitivity. That means what felt good at 40 can quietly trigger disaster at 70. That's what this video is really about. I want to walk you through 9 everyday movements that can become dangerous if you don't understand how your body has changed. Because this isn't about telling you to stop moving. It's about learning the new rules so you can keep moving safely for years to come. Let's start with something that seems completely harmless. Bending forward to touch your toes. Think about how often you do it. Before bed to stretch your back or hamstrings, picking up a laundry basket, tending your garden. You might have done it your whole life without thinking twice. But here's what happens inside your body. When you bend over, gravity pulls blood down into your legs. In a healthy younger body, your baroreceptors detect that shift instantly. They tighten your blood vessels and speed up your heart rate to keep blood flowing to your brain. But after 60, those sensors are slower or weaker. Blood pools in your legs, your brain gets less oxygen. Sometimes you might feel a little dizzy. Sometimes you feel nothing at all. But even without warning, that drop in circulation can thicken your blood, slow it down, and allow tiny clots to form that may travel into the narrow arteries of your brain while you sleep. Hours later, you can wake up with part of your brain starved of oxygen, unable to speak or move. I remember one of my patients so clearly. His name was Everett Hill. He was 75, a retired history teacher from Kansas who was proud of staying limber. Every morning he stood beside his bed and bent forward to touch his toes 5 or 6 times, a routine he'd done since he was young. He told me it made him feel flexible, youthful. One morning, after his usual stretching, he felt a bit dizzy but ignored it. A few hours later, while tending his garden, he collapsed. When he arrived at the hospital, he was awake but couldn't move his right arm or leg. A CT scan showed an ischemic stroke, a clot blocking blood flow to his brain's motor area. His labs revealed dehydration. His blood pressure had dipped earlier that morning. We traced it back to those toe touches. His aging arteries couldn't adapt to the sudden change in posture. His blood slowed, thickened, and quietly formed a clot with no warning at all. Everett learned to walk with a cane again, but his right hand never fully recovered. He told me, with tears in his eyes, "I thought stretching was saving me, but it nearly ended me." So if you want to keep stretching safely, there are simple changes to make. Always rise slowly from a bend. Take a deep breath. If you need to put on socks or shoes, sit in a chair instead of bending over while standing. Stay hydrated, especially in the morning. And most importantly, listen to your body. Feeling dizzy isn't just normal aging. It's your brain sending you a quiet plea to slow down, because the most dangerous stroke isn't the one that hits with a bang, it's the one that builds quietly, from a motion you've done 1,000 times before. Now let's talk about yoga, something so many people think is automatically safe, even essential, for graceful aging. And in many ways, it is. I love seeing senior centers where people sit in chairs, breathe deeply, and stretch carefully. But there's one group of poses that can be incredibly risky after 60, and too few people talk about it: inversions. That means any movement where your head is below your heart. Legs up the wall, downward dog, even simple forward folds. They're often marketed as gentle or restorative, but they cause a rush of blood toward your head. In younger bodies, your brain's auto-regulation system compensates quickly. But in older adults, the blood vessels feeding your brain may be stiff, inflamed, or weakened by decades of high blood pressure or cholesterol. That surge in pressure can cause those fragile vessels to swell, rupture, or spasm. And you might not feel a thing until it's too late. Let me tell you about Evelyn Barnes. She was 75, a retired art teacher from Oregon. She loved her gentle yoga class at the local senior center every Tuesday and Thursday. She told me how much she enjoyed the calm music, the community. One morning, the instructor guided them through legs up the wall with heads resting downward. Evelyn felt a sharp pain behind her eyes, but brushed it off, finished class, and went home to rest. That night, her daughter found her on the bedroom floor, confused and unable to speak. At the hospital, scans revealed a small hemorrhagic stroke at the back of her brain, a bleed triggered by that cranial pressure spike. Her blood pressure medication, combined with the inversion, had created the perfect conditions. Evelyn survived, but her vision on the left side is permanently blurred. She struggles to find words she once spoke so easily. A woman celebrated for her creativity now relies on sticky notes to remember simple things. That's why if you love yoga, I want you to keep doing it, but with new rules. Avoid any pose that drops your head below your heart. Skip inversions entirely. Choose seated or standing stretches instead. Make sure your instructor understands the specific needs of older adults. And always listen to your body. If you feel pressure behind your eyes or dizziness, stop immediately. Your arteries aren't the elastic hoses they once were. They're lifelines feeding your brain. Protect them like they matter, because they do. Finally, let's talk about lifting, something so many older adults see as a point of pride. There's real dignity in carrying your own groceries, lifting your grandkids, moving boxes without asking for help. It feels like independence. But here's what no one tells you. Even small acts of lifting can quietly trigger a stroke if done wrong. You don't have to be in a gym lifting 200 pounds to be at risk. I've seen strokes set off by lifting a garden hose, a heavy purse, or a laundry basket. It's not about the weight itself. It's about how you hold your breath and strain. When you unconsciously do the Valsalva maneuver, holding your breath while pushing, you cause a rapid internal pressure surge. Your chest and head pressure skyrocket. For aging arteries already narrowed and stiff, that surge can be deadly. It can cause small cracks. Plaque can rupture. A clot can break loose and travel straight to your brain. I'll never forget George Pickett. He was 83, a retired firefighter from Ohio. Strong, proud, fiercely independent. He loved helping his wife unload the car. One afternoon, he picked up a box of canned goods. Nothing unusual. But this time, he paused mid-lift, clutched his head, and collapsed. At the ER, he couldn't move the right side of his body or speak clearly. A scan revealed an ischemic stroke in the middle cerebral artery, one of the brain's vital highways. That sudden blood pressure spike had dislodged a piece of plaque that had been building silently for decades. George now uses a walker. Though his mind remains sharp, his speech is labored, slow. He told me, "Doc, I just wanted to help. I didn't know it would change everything." If you want to keep lifting safely, here's what to do. Lift smaller loads. Ask for help. Use carts, dollies, or smart leverage. Never hold your breath. Exhale through the hardest part of the lift. And if you feel dizzy or notice tightness in your chest or neck afterward, stop immediately. Because true independence isn't about lifting everything yourself. It's about staying healthy enough to keep living on your own terms. Now let's move on to something even more deceptively simple, standing up. It seems like the easiest, safest exercise imaginable. After all, you stand up dozens of times a day, from your favorite chair, after reading the paper, finishing a meal, answering the door. Many senior balance programs even encourage repeated sit-to-stand exercises to build leg strength and independence. But here's what too few people understand. When you're over 60, standing up too quickly, especially without support, can quietly trigger the very stroke you're trying to avoid. Here's why. The moment you stand, gravity pulls blood away from your head and toward your legs. In younger people, your baroreceptors react instantly, tightening blood vessels and increasing heart rate to maintain brain circulation. But after 60, that reflex becomes weaker, slower. If you have high blood pressure, diabetes, take beta blockers or diuretics, or even if you're just mildly dehydrated, which many older adults are without realizing it, your body may not compensate in time. When blood flow to your brain drops suddenly, you can feel a moment of dizziness or nothing at all. But during that small window, your blood can become sluggish, conditions ripen for clot formation, and those clots can travel silently to your brain. I want to tell you about Carol Jensen. She was 80, a retired school principal from Arizona, active, sharp, determined to stay healthy. Her physical therapist had encouraged her to practice repeated sit-to-stand drills from her kitchen chair without using her hands to improve balance and strength. She did it 5 times in a row, a little faster each morning. "It's good for your balance," she'd heard. But one morning, after one of these quick sessions while her husband brewed coffee, she stood up fast, reached for the counter, and paused. "I feel strange," she told him. Within seconds, the right side of her body weakened, her words slurred. At the hospital, scans revealed a left-sided ischemic stroke caused by a clot blocking her middle cerebral artery. Lab results showed early morning dehydration and vascular inflammation. She had no idea that something as encouraged as standing up quickly could trigger the most frightening moment of her life. Today, Carol can walk with a cane, but she struggles with speech and short-term memory. This isn't rare. Emergency rooms everywhere see seniors who have strokes that began with nothing more dramatic than standing too quickly. Because aging changes how blood vessels react, how quickly your brain can rebalance pressure, how vulnerable your oxygen supply becomes. The body you had at 40 isn't the body you have now, and that's not failure, it's nature. But ignoring that reality is the risk. If you want to keep getting up safely, take these precautions. Never rise from a chair without support nearby. Pause for a moment after standing to let your body adjust. Use the arms of a chair if needed. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your brain catch up before you walk. And if you ever feel dizzy after standing, don't brush it off as normal aging. It's a clear warning. Because in this chapter of life, speed is not your friend. Rushing from one position to another might cost you your clarity, your independence, even your ability to say your own name. Now let's talk about something most seniors see as healthy and even essential, a daily walk. For many older adults, walking is a cherished ritual. After breakfast to hear the birds, in the afternoon for fresh air. Doctors recommend it. Wellness programs encourage it. And it's true. Walking can be one of the best things you can do for your brain and heart health. But here's the part most people don't realize. Context matters. Walking in hot, humid conditions without enough hydration can quietly set up the conditions for a stroke overnight. Let's look at the physiology. As you age, your body's thirst response dulls. You don't feel thirsty until you're already dehydrated. Add in blood pressure medications, diuretics, or conditions like heart failure or diabetes, and your ability to regulate fluids is compromised. So you go for a walk, you sweat, even lightly, and you don't replace that fluid. Your blood volume drops, circulation slows, your once thin, flowing blood becomes thicker, more concentrated. Medically, this is hemoconcentration. In older adults with narrowed or stiffened arteries, this is dangerous. Thick, sticky blood is more prone to clotting, and if a clot forms and lodges in a brain artery overnight, you can wake up unable to speak or move. Let me tell you about Harold Dunn. He was 85, a retired postal worker from Kentucky. He took great pride in his discipline. Every afternoon after lunch, he'd walk around his neighborhood. It was his way of staying young, But in July, the humidity climbed and the temperatures lingered in the 90s. Harold didn't change his routine. "I'm used to it," he told his wife. One morning after a particularly hot walk the day before, Harold woke up confused. He tried to stand and collapsed immediately. At the hospital, his speech was slurred. He couldn't move his right arm. Scans confirmed a left-sided ischemic stroke, likely caused by dehydration and slowed circulation. His labs showed elevated hemoglobin concentration. His blood had thickened overnight. He hadn't had enough fluids. He hadn't replaced electrolytes. He thought walking was making him stronger. But that walk in the heat, combined with mild dehydration and his water pill, had set the stage for disaster. Harold survived, but he no longer walks without assistance. He still asks me why no one told him that walking could be dangerous if done the wrong way. And I tell him exactly what I'm telling you now. It's not the walk itself that hurts you. It's the conditions. It's the hidden changes inside your aging body that turn something good into something deadly. So if you want to keep walking safely, here's what I need you to do. Drink water before and after. Add a pinch of salt or sip coconut water to maintain electrolytes. Avoid walking during peak heat or high humidity. And if you feel tired, dry-mouthed, or dizzy afterward, don't just chalk it up to aging. That's your blood sending you a warning. Because the truth is, you can fall asleep after a walk feeling proud and wake up unable to speak or recognize your loved one's face. That's how silently stroke can steal from you when you ignore your body's quiet messages. And let's move on to one of the most common pieces of stretching advice seniors hear. Loosen up your neck. You've probably been told to tilt your head side to side or make slow circles with your chin to relieve stiffness. It feels harmless, even soothing. But no one ever warned you that these gentle movements can actually cause a tear inside one of the most delicate and vital arteries in your body, the vertebral artery. This artery winds through your neck bones to feed the back of your brain, controlling balance, coordination, even consciousness. These vessels aren't designed to twist or stretch too far, but every time you roll your neck in a full circle, especially with force or speed, you're pulling on those arteries like taffy. In aging bodies, where vessel walls are less elastic and more fragile, even one wrong movement can create a small tear called a dissection. Your body immediately tries to patch it by forming a clot. But if that clot breaks free, it can travel directly to your brainstem, triggering a posterior circulation stroke, one of the hardest to detect and often the most devastating. I remember Dennis Lyle so vividly. He was 73, a retired band director from Michigan. He was kind, active in his church choir, always looking for ways to keep his body limber. He'd read in a senior magazine that neck rolls were good for posture, so each morning after brushing his teeth, he'd slowly rotate his neck clockwise, then counterclockwise. One morning, halfway through the second circle, he felt a sharp pain behind his ear. Then came dizziness. He collapsed in the hallway. By the time paramedics arrived, Dennis couldn't speak clearly. He'd lost coordination, vomited twice on the way to the hospital. Scans confirmed a dissection of his left vertebral artery, a small tear that had triggered a stroke near his cerebellum. Dennis now uses a wheelchair. He still plays piano slowly, carefully, but he told me he had no idea that a movement so gentle could change his life forever. If you want to keep your neck healthy without risking your brain, please stop doing full neck circles. Avoid fast or jerky turns. Never stretch your neck to its limit. Instead, gently turn your head side to side within a comfortable range. Always move slowly and with support if needed. And if you feel unsteady, dizzy, or hear a sudden snap or click in your neck, stop immediately and get checked. Your neck isn't just about posture, it's your brain's lifeline. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it truly does. Now let's talk about a newer trend that's become popular in senior centers, YouTube workouts, and even Medicare-sponsored wellness programs, high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. It's marketed as a time-saving miracle, short bursts of intense exercise followed by quick rest periods to boost heart health, burn fat, keep your metabolism young. On paper, it sounds brilliant, and for younger, healthy people, it can be a great way to stay fit. But no one talks honestly about what it does to older adults, especially those over 60. When you do HIIT, your heart rate surges, your blood pressure spikes, Your vascular system is forced to expand and contract rapidly. In younger bodies, arteries are elastic, designed to handle these quick shifts. But in older adults, those same arteries are often stiffened, lined with plaque, or weakened from decades of hypertension or diabetes. Each pressure surge stresses the delicate inner lining, the endothelium, causing tiny cracks. Plaque can rupture. Your body rushes to repair it by forming clots. And if one of those clots travels to your brain, it can leave you unable to speak or move in seconds. I'll never forget Donald Whitaker. He was 75, a retired steelworker from Pittsburgh. He had a strong work ethic, prided himself on doing things the right way. Determined to stay active in retirement, he began each morning with an exercise DVD designed for seniors that included energizing HIIT moves, short bursts of step touches, fast arm raises, modified burpees. It felt intense but manageable, until one morning it wasn't. He finished his 20-minute session, walked to the kitchen to make coffee, and within minutes became dizzy. He dropped his cup, slumped against the counter. His wife heard the crash and found him unable to speak. At the hospital, a CT scan revealed an ischemic stroke on the left side of his brain. His carotid artery had released a clot, likely dislodged during one of those power intervals. Years of untreated hypertension had left his vessels too fragile to handle that surge. Donald survived, but he now lives in an assisted living facility, depends on speech therapy, and struggles with memory gaps that were never there before. He told me, "Doc, I thought I was doing the right thing. I just wanted to stay young." And that's the tragedy. He was trying to do the right thing, but his body wasn't built for that kind of pressure anymore. So if you want to stay active safely, choose steadier, lower impact options. Go for gentle, rhythmic walking. Try resistance bands or water aerobics. Tai Chi is excellent. Focus on control and consistency. Your brain doesn't need shock and surge. It needs steady, reliable oxygen flow. Aging doesn't make you weak, it makes you different. And your exercise routine should respect that difference. Now let's look at another habit that seems so innocent it's practically encouraged: stretching. Most of us grew up believing stretching before activity was the best way to stay limber and avoid injuries. And you'll see older adults everywhere begin their mornings with long forward bends, overhead arm stretches, or deep calf stretches against the wall, often before they even take a few steps around the house. But here's what no one ever explained. Stretching cold muscles and blood vessels can be dangerous, especially after 60. When you first wake up or before warming up, your circulation is focused on your core. Blood vessels in your limbs are more constricted. Your heart is beating slower. The tissues aren't ready to expand. Suddenly pulling on these muscles forces your arteries and connective tissues to stretch before they're ready. In younger people, the body quickly compensates, but in older adults, especially those with hypertension, diabetes, or vascular disease, this mismatch can trigger reflexive vessel constriction or turbulent blood flow, and that kind of turbulence encourages clots to form along weakened vessel walls. If those clots travel, your brain can pay the price. I want to tell you about Eileen Granger. She was 79, a retired piano teacher from Colorado. One morning before her usual neighborhood walk, she followed a popular, gentle senior stretching video she found online. She held a long forward bend, did quad stretches, rolled her shoulders, all before even walking around her living room or drinking water. She thought she was being good, but halfway through her walk, she felt lightheaded. Her balance wobbled. A neighbor noticed something was wrong when she struggled to form words. At the ER, scans revealed a small ischemic stroke in her left parietal lobe. Labs showed mild dehydration and endothelial stress. Based on the timing and events, we concluded the cold stretching had triggered a vascular mismatch that allowed a clot to form and lodge in her brain. Eileen recovered slowly. Her memory returned, but she now uses a walker and avoids walking alone. She didn't suffer from bad habits. She followed what everyone told her was healthy, but she did it in the wrong order. So here's what you should do instead. Never begin your day or your exercise with static stretching. Warm up first. Walk around your home for 5 to 10 minutes. Swing your arms gently. Take deep breaths. Let your circulation wake up. Let your joints loosen naturally. Once your body is warm, then stretch. Your muscles aren't the only things you're stretching. Your arteries, veins, and tissues feed your brain. and if they crack, clot, or constrict under sudden pressure, you may not even know until you've lost your ability to speak, move, or live independently. Finally, let's talk about balance training, something so many seniors are told is essential, and they're right. Balance exercises can help prevent falls, strengthen your core, protect your independence, but they can also be quietly dangerous if you do them the wrong way. Standing on one leg without holding onto something might sound like a good challenge, but if you're on an unstable floor, wearing socks, or simply distracted, one slip can send you crashing to the ground. And the danger doesn't end with the fall itself. When an older adult falls, even if no bones break, the body releases stress hormones. Blood pressure rises, inflammatory markers surge, the vessel walls constrict, the blood itself becomes more prone to clotting, and if one of those clots travels to the brain, it can cause a stroke hours or even days later. That's what I call the fall-stroke loop. A fall leads to clotting. A clot leads to a stroke. I remember Walter Harris. He was 82, a retired Navy veteran from San Diego. He lived alone, took real pride in staying active. One morning, he watched an online video that encouraged standing on one leg for 30 seconds. He tried it without holding onto a chair or wall. His foot slipped on a throw rug. He fell sideways, hitting his shoulder and knocking his head lightly on a side table. "I wasn't even that hurt," he told me later, "just embarrassed." But that night, everything changed. He woke up confused. His right arm was numb. He couldn't form a sentence. At the ER, they found a clot in his left middle cerebral artery. He hadn't hit hard enough to cause a brain bleed, but the fall itself had triggered enough physical stress to create a clot that traveled to his brain. Walter survived, but he now relies on help dressing and a speech therapist. He once told me he'd give anything to go back and do that same balance exercise while holding onto a chair. So here's what I want you to remember. Balance training is essential, but it must be done safely. Always do it near a sturdy surface. Hold onto a wall, counter, or chair. Wear secure, non-slip footwear. Never do it on unstable floors or while wearing socks that slide. If you're unsure, start with seated core exercises or heel-to-toe walking next to a wall. The goal isn't to prove you can do it alone. It's to build strength and stability without risk and regret. Because it's not just the fall you have to fear. It's what the fall triggers inside your body that you may never see coming. A stroke might not happen the day you hit the floor. It might come silently that night while you sleep, after a clot has formed and your brain can no longer defend itself. We've talked about 9 everyday movements that can quietly turn deadly if you don't understand how your body has changed after 60. From toe touches and yoga inversions to standing too fast or doing balance work without support. From heavy lifting and heat walking to neck rolls, HIIT, and cold stretching. These aren't things that make you bad or weak. They're things that worked once but don't work the same way anymore. Because aging changes everything. The elasticity of your arteries, the speed of your heart's response, the thickness of your blood, the sensitivity of the tiny sensors in your vessels. But please hear me now, movement isn't your enemy. Uninformed movement is. You don't need to stop exercising. You need to exercise differently. You need to do it with intention, with awareness, with respect for the incredible body that's carried you all these years, through love, loss, work, family, and countless challenges. So let's talk about what you should do instead. Here's the first and most important principle. Warm up first, always. Never begin a workout or even a morning stretch with cold muscles and vessels. When you first wake up, your circulation is focused on your core. Your limbs are less ready. Your heart is beating slowly. Instead of immediately pulling into a deep forward bend or rolling your neck in a circle, walk gently around your living room for 5 to 10 minutes. Swing your arms lightly. Take deep breaths. Feel your body wake up. It might seem trivial, but this simple change can mean the difference between smooth, safe circulation and a sudden shift that causes a clot to form. One of the most heartbreaking comments I ever read was from someone who said, "I used to think staying active meant pushing through anything. Now I know smart movement protects. Rushed movement risks everything." That's wisdom. That's the mindset shift that can literally save your independence. Second, use support without apology. Balance exercises are important. They help prevent falls, which can trigger that dangerous fall-stroke loop we talked about. But don't do them unsafely to prove a point. Stand near a wall, chair, or countertop. Hold on if you need to. Wear safe footwear. If you're unsteady, try heel-to-toe walking next to a wall or seated core movements. Because it's not about showing off, it's about staying upright, healthy, and independent. I can't tell you how many seniors have told me, I felt so embarrassed using a chair. But you know what? Every time you hold on, you're making the smart, strong choice to live independently another year. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Third, favor steady, rhythmic movement over intensity. Your brain doesn't want you shocking your system anymore. It wants you nourishing it with reliable oxygen. That means walking at a comfortable pace, water aerobics, resistance band exercises, Tai Chi. These activities keep your heart working in a healthy, consistent range without the surges and crashes that can rupture fragile vessels or dislodge plaque. There was a viewer who wrote, "This deserves to be played in every senior health seminar in the country." And I agree, not because it scares people, but because it tells the truth. HIIT routines that look so good in a glossy DVD or YouTube ad can push older bodies beyond their limits. And for what? A few burned calories that cost you your speech or mobility? Don't let marketing hype fool you. Your health isn't a trend, it's your lifeline. Fourth, hydrate well, not just after activity, but before. Dehydration is one of the most silent, overlooked dangers for older adults. Your thirst response dulls with age. Medications like diuretics or blood pressure pills make you lose even more fluid. When you're dehydrated, your blood becomes thicker, stickier. It circulates more slowly. That makes clot formation easier, and that clot doesn't care if you're sleeping peacefully. It can travel to your brain overnight and steal everything you value by morning. I once treated an older man who always walked in the heat because he liked the warmth. One summer day, the humidity spiked. He didn't drink enough water. He went to bed that night feeling proud of staying active, and he woke up unable to speak. His family told me, "We never knew a walk could do this." I don't want that to be your story. Please drink water before and after activity. Add a pinch of salt or sip coconut water for electrolytes if needed. Avoid walking in the hottest part of the day. Fifth, combine movement with breath. One of the sneakiest ways older adults hurt themselves is by holding their breath while lifting, bending, or straining. That Valsalva maneuver I talked about earlier, it sends your internal pressure through the roof in seconds. For a vascular system already narrowed, stiff, or inflamed, it's like setting off a tiny bomb inside your chest or brain. So train yourself to exhale during the hardest part of any lift or movement. Don't clench, don't brace, breathe. One of the comments on my channel put it beautifully. Thank you for speaking to us like adults and not fragile children. That's exactly what this is about. I know you're not weak. You've lived through wars, recessions, family tragedies. You're tougher than anyone gives you credit for, but you're also different than you were at 40, and that difference demands respect. Sixth, stretch after activity, not before. Once you're warm, your vessels and muscles are ready to expand safely. That's the best time for long-held stretches. Think of it like gently shaping warm clay instead of trying to bend brittle, cold ceramic. Cold stretching can shock your system. Warm stretching supports it. Seventh, listen to the subtle warnings. Dizziness, brain fog, nausea, chest pressure, sudden fatigue. These aren't just getting old. They're your brain and heart sending you early warning signals that something is off. Don't ignore them. Don't push through. Sit down. Breathe. Hydrate. If it doesn't go away, seek help. One woman commented that she watched this video with tears in her eyes because it reminded her of her mother, who passed away after a silent stroke they never saw coming. That breaks my heart. It's why I'm here. Because stroke isn't just a personal tragedy, it's a family tragedy. It steals memories, robs grandchildren of bedtime stories, turns spouses into caregivers overnight. Eighth, move in the morning or midday, not late at night. Blood circulation naturally slows at night. If you do intense activity before bed, you risk delayed blood pressure crashes or clot formation while you sleep. Aim for when your body is most alert and responsive. And finally, personalize your routine with your doctor. This isn't one-size-fits-all advice. Medications, health history, previous strokes or TIAs, all of these matter. A movement that's safe for one senior might be dangerous for another. Review your plan with your doctor or a physical therapist who understands geriatric care. Because here's the bottom line, you still hold the pen. This chapter of your life isn't about limitation, it's about precision, about knowing your body better than ever and making choices that reflect your hard-earned wisdom. You've survived loss, challenge, and change. You've built families, careers, and communities. You've earned the right to write these final chapters on your own terms. But that means protecting your brain like the treasure it is. Because one small movement done at the wrong time or without enough support can unravel everything you've worked so hard to protect. The right movements, chosen wisely and done safely, can give you more years of clarity, mobility, and freedom. So as you step into your next walk, your next stretch, your next effort to stay healthy, take this truth with you. It's not just how you move, it's how you protect the brain that allows you to move at all. Make every step count, not just towards strength, but towards safety. Not just toward fitness, but toward freedom, because your brain is still listening, and it's counting on you to move with care. If you've made it this far, I want to say something that I truly mean. Thank you. Thank you for caring enough about your health, your future, and the people who love you to sit with these hard truths. You've shown the kind of strength that doesn't come from lifting weights or mastering yoga poses, but from wisdom earned over decades and the courage to change course when the road you trusted suddenly shifts beneath your feet. We've talked about 9 everyday movements that most people never think twice about, simple actions that, when done in the wrong way or at the wrong time, can quietly steal your speech, your balance, your independence. And that's not because you're weak, it's because aging changes the rules. Your blood vessels aren't as elastic as they were at 40. Your heart doesn't respond as quickly to sudden position changes. Your brain becomes more sensitive to oxygen dips, dehydration, and inflammation. And the body you're living in now needs different care than the body you had 30 years ago. That's not an insult, that's nature. As a heart doctor, I've seen too many patients who were active, careful, doing what they thought was right, walk into my office one week and return the next unable to speak or feed themselves. I've seen strong men who once fixed cars or built houses sit in hospital beds unable to hold a spoon. I've watched spouses transform overnight into caregivers who never expected to bathe or dress the person they love most. And I've heard the same phrase over and over, I didn't know. I thought I was doing the right thing. That's why I'm here. Not to scare you away from movement, but to give you knowledge. Because knowledge, not fear, is what will keep you alive, alert, and independent. If you're over 60, you still have a lot of living to do. Family birthdays, grandchildren's graduations, quiet mornings with a cup of coffee, long talks with old friends, even the simple pleasure of stepping outside and feeling the sun on your face. None of that should be taken for granted, and it shouldn't be put at risk because no one bothered to tell you how the rules change as you age. So let's be clear about this. Movement is not your enemy. Uninformed movement is. You don't need to stop exercising. You need to do it differently, more mindfully, more slowly, with more respect for the incredible, aging, beautiful body that's carried you this far. One of the comments that stuck with me most came from someone who said, I'm 93 years old, living on my own, and still managing my daily routines. Though I'm not as agile as I once was, I make an effort to stay active. I enjoy reading, doing crossword puzzles, and spending time with my family, especially my grandchildren. They bring so much joy into my life. Each day, I remind myself that life is about enjoying the little moments and being grateful for every blessing. That's it right there. It's not about giving up. It's about choosing the kind of movement and lifestyle that protects those little moments. Because those are the moments that matter. Another viewer wrote, "Thank you for treating seniors with respect and not as fragile children." I want you to know that's exactly how I see you. Not fragile, not incapable, but experienced, deserving of honesty, and worthy of guidance that respects what you can still do, while acknowledging what you shouldn't. So as we wrap up, let me remind you of these principles one more time. Warm up first. Always. Use support without apology. Favor steady, rhythmic movement over intensity. Hydrate before and after. Combine movement with breath. Stretch only after you're warm. Listen to warning signs. Move during your most alert hours. And personalize your plan with your doctor. These aren't limitations. They're strategies. They're the keys to writing the next chapter of your life on your own terms. Because you've worked too hard to let one careless moment, one sudden movement, one unexamined habit rob you of your independence. You deserve to keep telling your stories, sharing your wisdom, laughing at old jokes, and hugging your family with both arms. You deserve to be here for as long as you can be, in the best health you can manage, with your dignity intact. So I invite you now, take a moment to reflect. What's one small change you can make starting today? Will you rise more slowly from your chair? Drink water before your walk? Ask your instructor if they're trained for senior needs? Skip the neck rolls? Tell someone you love about what you learned here, because you don't have to do this alone, and you shouldn't. One of the most beautiful things about getting older is that you understand the value of community. You know that wisdom grows best when it's shared. So if you found this video helpful, please leave a comment and share one change you're ready to make. If you have a story about something you learned the hard way, share that too. You could save someone else from repeating the same mistake. If you have a loved one over 60, consider sharing this video with them, not to scare them, but to give them a chance to make smarter choices. And if you'd like more videos like this, honest, practical, compassionate health advice made especially for older adults, please consider subscribing. Because the truth is, the healthcare system doesn't always do a good job of explaining these things. And you deserve to have a voice that speaks directly to you with the respect you've earned. Let's walk this wiser path together. Your brain deserves it, your family deserves it, and most of all, you deserve it. Thank you so much for your time, your trust, and your willingness to learn. Here's to many more healthy, independent years. If you'd like to keep learning, watch the next video here on the channel. And remember, it's not just about staying strong, it's about staying safe. Not just about movement, but about protecting the brain that lets you enjoy everything movement brings. Stay well, stay wise, and take good care of yourself.